I'm Donny Schatz.
I'm Cory Eliason, and this is The Skinny.
From Fathead Studios in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny. Hey guys, once again, welcome to The Skinny. Ken Stout and Rico Elmore, as always, and two great sprint car drivers have joined us in the studio. The guy that finished third in the points with the All-Star Series 1 year ago is Cory Eliason, and then out from North Dakota, one of the Fat Cats, one of the greatest of all time, certainly put his name in the top of the charts with the Hall of Famers. We also welcome the 10-time World of Outlaw champ, Donny Schatz.
Don, how's things going out westward there?
As good as could be expected. Everybody's doing their part here. When you go down the road, there's not much happening. I'm staying plenty busy. It's always a project that I can dump everything out of a kitchen drawer and put it back in 100 times and put it 100 different ways. So, being busy.
That's called insanity, but we get it. So are you, your guys' truck stop still open, right?
Absolutely. The truck stops are both open. The restaurants are obviously takeout only, so we're forced to not be having anybody sit down. But everything's still operation as normal as far as everything else. Without truck drivers or any truck traffic, we don't get anything except for internet, I guess. So be thankful for that.
And we do thank the truckers out there, because I got news for you. Right now, what's going on, there'd be no way to catch up with all these supplies and everything that would need to go out. I'm a former trucker. Ken is a former trucker. And Cory is aspiring to be a trucker, but he can't pass the test.
Donny, we hear about the young guns that are coming through the ranks these days, and it's not uncommon to hear of a 14-year-old sprint car driver, 15-year-old sprint car driver. I'm not going to say it's common, but it's certainly not uncommon. It's been done so many times. But I remember, I want to say back in the early 2000s, there was a kid that came up through the ranks. Really, I want to say around 2004, 2005, somewhere in that area. Somebody that was 15 years old, and boy, they were just getting pounded like their parents. Why are their parents putting them in a sprint car at such a young age, 14, 15 years old? There's no way he has the knowledge to compete against the veterans without making a big mistake, causing a wreck, getting somebody hurt. And then I'm reading a little bit on this guy named Donny Schatz, and back in 1993, you were 15 years old in your first sprint car race. So the question is, did you guys get any flack because you were so young and in a sprint car?
No matter what you do, you're going to have someone that's going to oppose you in some way, shape, or form. So, they caught flack for it, but it was something we all love to do. Still love to do it this day. And, obviously, whatever 42 minus 15 might be, that's how long I've been going around. So I'm glad they allowed me to do it. In today's age, you see kids so little, you don't think of the repercussions. Heck, I got nieces of my own that are 12 years old, and they already got 4 or 5 years experience. So just the nature of the beast in today's age, but I had great parents back then that allowed me to do it.
Do you feel any different about it now that you're on this side of that equation and looking at putting a 14 or 15-year-old inside of a car? Is if you know that they've had the experience and they've worked their way up to it, do you have any issues with it?
I have an issue with the attitude that goes with it. If a kid thinks that you just get in and you go at any cost, whatever it takes to win, whether it's drive through someone, over someone, that's not something that attitude or that mentality is not something I'm going to stand for. I've had to do it with my own nieces. They were notorious for hitting each other or moving someone out of the way just because they thought they'd be in trouble if they didn't get to that position. And, I've done as much as loaded things up and took them home on a Monday night or a Wednesday night because they were hitting things. So it's just the way I was brought up to race. And, I think if kids have that attitude that they don't care what they hit or what they tear up, it teaches them no respect for anyone on or off the racetrack, and I'm not a fan of that. But you can't be everybody's parents. You can only parent your own or those around you.
That goes along with the entire issue, right? When do they become mature enough to understand, okay, You can't just drive through somebody. You can't take that risk all the time, and knowing when it's the right time, when it's the wrong time to take it, and becoming of age. That's the big part of the issue. A big part of the equation is they're 14 and 15 years old. They haven't quite figured that out yet, and they find themselves racing next to a Donny Schatz or anybody of that stature, if you will, and they're in their mind, they're like, this is my chance, man. I'm gonna go for it right here, and I'm gonna beat this guy and show him, prove to him that I belong out here. But they're just not quite mature enough. And I'm not knocking it. I'm really not knocking it, because there are some young, talented drivers out there that do possess the ability to do it and make really good decisions, amazing good decisions, to be honest with you. But, man, it's so hard to draw that line, because you can't get one without getting some of the other.
Absolutely. I put it back to the parents. I can relate to how my father was. My father was very hard on me. He wasn't one that if I went out and did something one time and did something good, where he was standing there with champagne and clapping hands and patting you on the back. I very rarely got a pat on the back. The older I get, the more pats on the back I get. But when I did something wrong, I certainly did not get a pat on the back I expected. If I did something wrong, I got a boot in the ass. And that's just the way it was back then. In today's age, kids get their feelings hurt, and mom and dad tell them it's okay no matter what. And that's something that, when it relates to racing, you never really learn the difference between right and wrong. And that's something I can't control, but it's definitely something different to see in today's age.
So, Cory, tell us how you got started. Where'd you start out? What'd you start running first?
When I was, I think it was my 6th birthday, my dad got me a go-kart. And we just kind of went out to the parking lots, because that's when stores were closed on Saturday and Sunday still. So we'd go out to
They're closed all the time now, by the way,
Yeah,
but
permanently.
that's beside the point.
We'd go out there, and I'd just rip laps through whatever, all the stalls, or they'd have the trolley returns, or the dividers in it. Up until I pushed a little too hard, and I spun out, and I smoked the cement curb, and I blew the rear end out of the thing. That's when he decided that it was time to quit messing around there. And he, for Christmas, I ended up getting a junior sprint. I started when I was 9. And from there, I just kind of progressed up, in the ranks of micros, moved forward until 16. And that was, I think it was more of a time, void and keeping me busy and keeping my parents busy with me, so they didn't have to really worry about me. So basically, once I turned 16, it was kind of, if you still want to do this, you need to go out and find money to help, because we can't keep doing it. It was more of a, I think this will be good to keep them busy, but they didn't expect it to go as far as it did. So
you were friends with the Swansons, which was hilarious. I had no idea. Cory went to the track with us, Outdoor Suite. Cody Swanson's there, which, we've been involved with for many years. Great guy, great family. They start talking, and I'm like, oh, you guys know each other? And they're like, oh, yeah, man, we used to ramp BMX bikes into Cory's in-ground pool. I'm like, I would kill you. I would kill both of you, all of you that were doing that.
It was fun. We survived. Obviously, Cody was a good parent, I guess, back then when he was 15 or 16, was not letting us do
guardian.
Not letting us completely kill ourselves. But, we still ended up, somebody got hurt every time.
Yeah. Were your parents excited that you were jumping the bikes into the pool, or did they ever know that part?
It was after, when I think actually we ended up with a motorcycle in the pool. So
okay, here we go.
That was...
It's even better.
Easy, it's easy to fish the bikes
the
out. Yeah, you can fish the bikes out, no problem. But when you got a little dirt bike and you launch it off in there, and then the pool's full of oil and gas, that's a bit harder to hide. Black marks down the side of it because the tires. Yeah, that probably wasn't our smartest choice, but we were out there in the rain, draining the pool and scrubbing it clean.
Donny, I read on there that you're a third generation racer. Do you remember your grandfather racing? I'm guessing you probably went with Dad a little bit, but what about Gramps?
He wasn't a dirt track racer. He was a farmer, and he was in the war. I think he really wanted to rob banks and drive horses. So my grandfather's claim to fame was he took a team of hitch horses in a stagecoach and drove his horses all the way from his house to the Mexican border and back. So That's kind of his thing. He sends postcards along the way. Everybody has their own little things they want to do, but that was my grandfather's, was more around real horsepower.
Yeah, so, and I also read that one of the things that you've done in the course of your lifetime is riding behind one of those mammoth Belgian draft horses with your dad.
Absolutely. My family was involved with draft horses a long time. They grew up on the farm. Horses were a big thing. Mobile advertising was something that in the truck stop business, my parents were something they were big on, just like what we do with racing today. Racing has helped build our truck stop business in the state of North Dakota, across the country, and they did it with horses as well. So, from the time I was young, I think the first time I drove a team of horses was I was 5 years old at the Denver Stock Show, and we had some pretty good outings over the years, and obviously been kicked in the face by one, and had a lot of fun with it. But there come that time when dirt track racing was what you lived and dreamed, and my parents pretty well parked all the horses, and that's what we did, was focused on that.
So the first time you flip a sprint car and you ring your bell, you're like, it's no worse than being kicked in the face.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Immediately where I was going to go with that.
Actually, the worst thing about flipping the first time, back then I had one of them electric tear-off machines, and they were plugged in and powered by a phone cord. And I got out and I didn't unplug it, and I got about 10 foot from the car, and boom, I went straight to the ground and closed it. The phone cord run out. So that wasn't a whole lot of fun. I think I was more injured emotionally from that phone cord running out.
I remember when I was a kid, all the cool kids had the really, really long phone cord, and I never got a long phone cord, and apparently you didn't either.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, and the other thing was, remember the tear-offs where it had the pull string? You'd pull the string on it. Well, hell, that's top notch. What he had.
He had the high end stuff. Yeah, we didn't have the little pull string. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Donny, you've done some crazy stuff along the way. Did you ever imagine being in the same company as the Doug Wolfgangs, the Sammy Swindells, the Steve Kinzers? I mean, the absolute kings of the sport, and certainly that is where you're sitting right now. I mean, 10 times winning the premier championship with the World of Outlaws. I mean, it just doesn't come any bigger than that. And if that's not enough to make somebody believe that you're the best out there right now, the guy to beat, and Brad Sweet might want to argue that, but you know what I'm talking about here. But to say that you've also won Knoxville 10 times, I mean, dude, you are absolutely the king as it stands here today. And your name is synonymous with those guys, those other kings of the sport. Did you ever think you'd get here?
When I started all this, you can dream as big as you want, but I really thought, when I saw my name on a t-shirt the first time, I was like, yes, I've made it. But the reality is, that doesn't mean a damn thing. You can just get in these cars, and the sheer thrill and excitement is incredible. And to me, the first couple times I got in, I scared. I'm like, there's no way it's like riding a bull. You don't know what to expect. I've done that too. So, no, I didn't ever picture being in a position 5 years later. Like I said, you can dream it. I wasted 10 years of my career. The first 10 years I came out here, I was more worried about playing video games some days and traveling from A to B. Got caught up in the lifestyle and didn't really pay attention to results and focus on what I needed to focus on. Just had to run into the wall one day and say, hey, this what you want to do? You want to do this for the next 30 years and just be somebody, or are you going to find a way to be better than that?
I mean, the stats that you continue to rack up are certainly incredible, and you won those 2 titles, and I'm guessing that really paved the way to open up the door to start driving for Tony. Is that correct?
Yeah, it opened a lot of doors. It started to build a little confidence, and that's something everybody needs, a little confidence, and to be able to have time to figure things out. That's the unfortunate part of this sport, is everything's going so fast that sometimes it takes a little time and you have to build on things. A lot of car owners want results now, and sometimes you think it's the driver change or a motor change or a chassis change or a crew chief change. And there's really 5 major components that used to be a big factor in that, and it was driver, crew chief, cars, engine, and tires. And now actually we don't get to pick the tires as a factor, but it's got the same thing. So there's one problem eliminated.
Cory, I'm sure you are paying attention to everything this guy's doing out there in North Dakota, certainly at the racetrack. But you've had a couple of good years. You're picking your way up through there, and I know it's an expensive ride. Certainly, you'd love to be chasing that World of Outlaws Championship. But 2017, you were fortunate enough to grab your first win with World of Outlaws. Had to be a special night, and did it from the pole.
Yeah, as Ross, Dennis and Teresa kind of took that step. I guess that leap to kind of give me the opportunity to see if I could kind of produce. I traveled with Harley Van Dyke a little bit. Before that, he kind of was the first one that took me out to Knoxville, and I got to see that and realized I've got a lot of work to do. Coming from California, we have 1/2 mile, and I never go to Calistoga. So, I was able to win in Stockton. It worked out in our favor, and, we were still strong through most of the California swing. I think, I kind of struggled when I got out Midwest a little bit, and it just took some time. Just like, I didn't really have the experience. I still go to tracks I've never been to before, and it's like, man, I try to get caught up quickly. The first goal is to figure out where I'm supposed to get on the racetrack and where I'm supposed to get off the racetrack.
That'd be good.
It's funny that you say that, because it seems like those tracks in California, you say you have no experience, in the Midwest, or you had no experience, and you're still earning that. But the same thing applies for the Midwest guys that go out west. We just did an ASCS race at the beginning of this year at Merced, and boy, I'm telling you, it was a cowboy up racetrack. It was rough in the beginning. Once you got to the feature, it wasn't too bad. Couple of holes that if you didn't have your car set up right, the car was not happy. But there was a top, there was a bottom. It was a racy little quarter mile for sure. But I'll tell you, man, through the qualifiers, it was a handful.
Being that I'm able to come from California and have the rough, big curb, cowboy up style racetrack or mentality, I think it's going to help, as the more races I get to run out here and the more opportunities I have, I think as myself as a driver, it's helped me tremendously, just because when we get in those situations where it's a big curb or it's rough hooked up, most of the times, you don't get that out here. So I'm able to say, okay, well, this is what we can do, or this is what I think we need to do. And it's easier for the crew chief to say, okay, yeah, we'll try that, just because, that's more of my background than his. So, everyone has to work together, and that seems to be, kind of the spot that I can, close in on and bring to the team.
When you see somebody like Schatz out there and you have an opportunity maybe to watch him in a heat race or a qualifier or something like that, or you're up on the fence, is that a guy you watch? What are you looking for?
You kind of look like, I watch all forms of racing, and when you watch all different drivers, it's amazing what he's able to do with the race car. As far as when you watch, it could go out there and it could be complete disaster, and you're like, oh boy, and after 2 laps it's fixed, and he's figured it out. So he's more of a perfectionist. It's a lot of people boo him, don't like him just because he's winning, but they need to realize this is the Lewis Hamilton of sprint cars. He's a perfectionist. The way he runs the car, the way he runs his laps, everybody probably idolizes to be able to do what he does in the race car, and I definitely know I do. It's nice to see that there's people that are able to start being a part of that. As far as Brad Sweet, David Gravel, they're getting up there. They're fast. They're consistent. Logan Schuchart, what he's doing with his, it can be fast at any given time. So it's nice to be able to see that you put your hard work in, that you can get there. So every racetrack I go to, you always watch the 15 or the 49. That's just kind of where they run, what they do. It's you have to watch, you have to learn, and I'm fortunate enough that Kevin is very relaxed as a car owner, and he is definitely giving me everything I need to do to win and everything that I need to be out there. So as far as that, it makes it a lot easier. There's a lot less stress. That way I can focus more on driving the race car instead of figuring out what's going to happen if I lose my ride.
You know, you mentioned Harley Van Dyke before, and you did qualify for the A main at the Knoxville Nationals in 2017. Congrats on that. Struggled in your prelim night, and then had a really good run on the Hard Knocks Friday night. Finished up fourth and transferred in, right? The top four, I believe, transferred in. But then the story got drastically different come Saturday morning, correct?
Saturday, Harley calls and tells me that his daughter was involved in a car accident and she passed away. So he said he has to go to the airport right now. He doesn't know what's going to happen. And I was just like, well, I mean, you need to go. Like, whatever we got to do, don't worry. He's like, well, I want you to race. I remember talking to Harley right after that, after we ran that main. I had the crew guy had him on the phone because we had to run the World Challenge race also. So we were the same car, and he was so excited. He was yelling and screaming in the airport. He said everybody was looking at him, and he was very emotional, which was good for him because he's never made the Knoxville Nationals, and he needed something good. After what he just went through, he needed something good to kind of uplift his spirit and keep him going, and that did. And that weekend right there was everything for him.
Yeah, to receive that phone call, your daughter passed away, and I mean that's just disastrous. And then to turn you guys loose and have you keep chugging forward. I was curious, and that's what I love about this racing community is somebody's going to come over and help you out. They won't just let you guys hang out to dry, especially if you've been digging hard and showing that you really care and that you want to work hard. And that's why I wanted to bring my son up. That's why I love working in this industry. I wanted to bring my son up in this industry because it's loaded with extremely successful people with a really hard work ethic. And they're not afraid to come over and help somebody when they need help. When they're down, they want to beat you on the racetrack. But they want to get you out there on that racetrack, and then let the cards fall where they may. And I read that story and I was like, man, oh man, that had to be one hell of a weekend.
He was going under, unprecedented times. It was the most emotional thing you could possibly go for. I could imagine is your, a father losing your daughter, your kid.
It's pretty hard to have somebody throw you a curveball much bigger than that one, And whenever you get to the next scenario, you're like, yep, been there, done that, man. Well, we made it through, and we'll do it again.
Donnie, so you went through a little bit of stuff with your dad. How's he doing now?
He's doing really good. Obviously, January 3rd of 2019, I was in Australia, and I got a phone call from my sister that he had pancreatic cancer, stage 4. I wasn't exactly sure what that meant. I started doing some research, and when you get stage 4 any cancer, most people don't live through it. They told me to stay and race. That's what you do. My mind wasn't there. I stayed, but it was a long trip home. Got with the doctor who needed to. Got lined out on chemo. He's adapting to the chemo very well. He's had a normal life. He's doing everything he needs to do. Right now, we got him in an underground bunker at his house, trying to stay away from catching this nasty virus going on. So it would be very unlikely for him. But here we are, nearly 18 months later. Like I said, he's adapting to it well. Hopefully he can get out in his motorhome this summer and enjoy some races and enjoy what time he's got left.
You're talking about the chemo and you're talking about things like that. And of course, that's something that is, very, very close to me as well with my daughter and leukemia. You're talking about your dad being in an underground bunker. I get it. My daughter just went through bone marrow transplant. I guess it's been 2 weeks ago now. We did receive word 2 days ago that it's starting to take, that her numbers are going the right way now. But I'm telling you, man, there's nothing guaranteed in life. And everything that we've went through with it. I know what you're dealing with, and Ken dealt with something very similar with his daughter Shay when she was an infant. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you're an infant, if you're 28 like my daughter, you're at the age of your father. It doesn't give a shit, man. It'll come after you, and I admire you spending the time and everything out there and making that time. not to get on the downside of things, but I lost my dad in 2011 and my oldest brother all within the same month, and there isn't a day that I don't think about it, and to go through this with my oldest daughter has been it, that I say that those those things with my brother and my dad definitely defined me. It changed me. It changed my life, and then when this whole thing happened with my daughter, it definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things didn't really mean as much as you really thought they did. So, I hope your old man can get out there and get doing his thing out on the road. I know you guys have spent many years out there doing that, maybe you can help Cory win more races in Australia, since you won all of yours and he barely could win one of his.
I was listening to the Dennis story, and you didn't have to tell me that was Dennis, and I could have told you it was, but you should have just said, "Hey, Dennis, hold my beer. Go stand in the infield. Make sure it's cold when we get out there."
God, if I could have that much confidence when you just don't know what to expect, so that the confidence, usually I can be, kind of a smart ass at most times, or at my worst time, So I just didn't know really what to say. I'm just like, yep, okay, well, I'll see you after the checkered. I'll meet you down there, and that's all I did. Put my helmet on, and I'm like, dear Lord, I hope that's over.
Hey, Donnie, that's actually a great question. When do you? Let's see if you can. I don't know if you can pinpoint it, but there's probably a time in your career where you go from feeling like Cory is right now. Cory wants to deliver. He wants to be really respectful. He's going to go out there and scrap. He's going to fight as hard as he knows how to fight, but he doesn't have that confidence that you have. When you walk out there onto that track and you get in that car, you sit down in that car and you're like, yep, the rest of these bastards better look out, because I'm here to kick some ass tonight. And at some point in time, that switch flips, and you've got that confidence. And when you get in the car, man, it's worth at least 4 or 5 spots right out the bat.
Well, Cory's delivering. He's doing a great job. I mean, I know where he grew up in California, and it takes a different mindset than what you're, racing California tracks all the time. And believe me, I was the same way. I had a lot of things when I was younger. I just wanted to race wide open all the time. And, it was put to me once. Do you ever see the Knoxville Nationals with wide open on the football cushion, or the Kings Royal? I mean, those races that pay all the money aren't that, and that makes or breaks your whole year. But there's no substitute for experience. And Cory's getting to that point where he's getting more and more experience, and he's doing a phenomenal job. I think what they've done with going and running the All-Star deal, getting to race those races and the Outlaw races, you can go do both. I think it's probably a better scenario than being locked down to one national touring series like the World of Outlaws, where you're guaranteed to 95 nights. Because the problem with that is when you're trying to race 95 nights a year for a championship or points or whatever, there's no reset button. Everybody's going to go through a stage where something doesn't happen right, or you're tearing up cars, or you're doing this, but you can't hit pause or up, down, BA, select, start like you could in Super Mario Brothers back in the day, and restart where you want to. It's everybody pretty much has to do it on the road from motel parking lot to motel parking lot, and with a group of guys that get disgruntled when things don't go right. So there's no substitute for that. So when you can go and not be committed to something, I think it's your best opportunity to get the most experience. And obviously it's working well for him, because I don't see anybody else in Cory's position right now that's doing any better job than he.
Yeah, solid effort last year, by the way. Congratulations. Top 3 there in the All-Stars, and a couple of wins along the way.
Rookie of the year.
Yeah,
All-Stars.
I mean, dude, I agree with you. I mean, I think one of only 3 guys, the top 3 guys, to make the feature every night, and 40 features along the way, and then an amazing number of rainouts. And there were 20 rainouts last year, which is unbelievable, unheard of, really. But still a great effort there, man, for sure. Congratulations.
So how'd you run at Volusia this year?
You know what? I'm going to let you off the hook here. Let's let the fans know that you were on the podium 3 of the first 4 races. So okay, now you can talk about Volusia.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want that damn gator. That's all I want.
And Cory Eliason tries the high side in turn one and drives by Logan Schuchart to take the lead. Cory Eliason, the new race leader, but for how long? Here's Schuchart back to the inside to take it back. White flag waving. Final lap. Schuchart trying to protect Eliason right there on his back bumper. Eliason up in smoke on the final lap. Logan Schuchart will win the final night of Dirt Car Nationals for the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series.
Man, one lap.
That's it. But that's what gets you the drive to keep coming back for more and more.
One lap from the gator.
Yeah. Well, that's why hopefully next year, I mean, it's, you always find those, I'm sure Donny is saying that there's those tracks that it's like, I just want to win here. I mean, it's not, he's won at probably most all of them, but there's still, those tracks that I just have to win. I finally won at Port Royal, and that was really cool over a month ago, probably now. But I still
was that when Kevin didn't even know you were racing?
Yes, that is when he didn't even know that we were racing.
He called his car owner to tell him he won. He goes, "Oh hell, I didn't even know you were running."
Yeah, but it's still Eldora, Volusia. There's just something. Calistoga, I wanted to win there forever. I only was able to run there twice, so that was cool. And then the next time I was there in a wing car was the Outlaw Show that we ended up winning, thankfully, for a yellow that came out that gave me the lead back when I slipped out of the rubber, and that I think it was green at that time. 15 come right by me.
They'll race through 3 and 4 and down to the white flag. Donny Schatz has one lap to make it happen. They touch on a turn 4. And the caution flag waves for Brent Marks, who stops in turn 2. And Cory Eliason will maintain the race lead. Eliason, 3 car lengths in front of Schatz, expands it to 8 car lengths down the back straightaway. Cory Eliason into turns 3 and 4 for the final time. He got an outlaw win in March. He'll get his second in September. He wins the Wine Country Classic.
Don, you remember that happening?
I do. I almost know anymore when the yellow comes out, I'm not going to gain a spot or retain a spot either way. So it just happens that way when you race enough and you're in them positions enough. It seems like you get yourself in a worse spot where you get all worked up about it. So I try not to get worked up about it.
Listen, we know that you've got a family there you're hanging out with and everything, and
Yeah, we get you here in the area, get you back here in the neighborhood. We got to get you in the studio, and we'll do this whole thing again, man.
yeah, we'll bring you and the boss in and pound him in.
So we got some good Tony stories. We can do that.
Okay,
I got lots of good Tony stories.
You're in.
All right, Donnie, have a good one, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you guys.
Cory, back to you. And so, how many shows were you to run this year? What do you know? What the number was?
I think it was 108 before that stopped at Trophy Cup. Before all this, it happened.
What did you run last year? Do you remember?
83.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
added quite a few.
That was my biggest year. Yeah, I mean, up until it's tough to, say the numbers because people don't believe it. But up until Harley, took me out on the road in 2017, I think the most I was able to race a sprint car in 1 year was 25 nights.
Talked about because now you've seen both sides of it. The team or the driver that doesn't have the big budget to go out there and run the better part of 100 times a year. You get in the car 20 times, and you kind of remember what that was like, and maybe it takes the first practice session or two to kind of shake the rust off, try to figure out what's going on. And you're exactly what you just said. You're more reactive than proactive. It's like, okay, the car did this, so I need to fix this, rather than I think the track is going to do this. Let's go here with the car, to get ahead of it. Versus the same guy that you have been now climbing in the car 80 times in a year, where now it's just like walking down the sidewalk. I mean, before it's like, man, finally I'm back in the car, and now it's like, boom, I'm in this thing again. I just did this a few days ago. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's probably been the biggest part of helping my career. Experience laps are everything out there. This up until we had this pandemic, I had a 3-week break, I think, from the time I quit racing in the States till I went over to Australia. I went and raced in Australia, come back, run all of Florida, run Volusia and East Bay, then East Bay 360s. And that Sunday, I flew out and flew back to Australia.
Yeah, and it's no easy task down there. I, of course, rib on you about it, but I mean, people don't get it. One, you're a stranger in a strange land, even if you've been there 3-4 years, right?
Yep.
But you're a stranger in a strange land. You've got a different group of people that you're working with. It's totally different than the people you work with all year for 80 whatever races.
There's more teams there that have the nice rigs, have all the good equipment, that race as much as they can.
They're absolutely crazy about it over there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that is their NASCAR, IndyCar deal.
There's a lot of good talent down there, and it's still nice that there's still teams that want to bring drivers from America over to still race.
Thanks, brother.
Yes, thank you.
Well, we're going to wrap it up here, Carl, and give you the rest of the day off. Thanks for watching this episode of The Skinny. Be sure to check out all the latest sun and optical eyewear at fatheads.com. Special thanks to our sponsorship partners at Elliott's Custom Trailers and Carts. This has been a production of Fathead Studios. Please remember to subscribe.